So welcome back to Beyond the Bind, coming to you still from Automate 2025. And we're excited to catch up with some of our good friends at Vention. Here today we have Brandon, the Chief Product Officer. Brendan, before we get into the nitty gritty of what you guys are showing here today, can you give our listeners just an overview of who Vention is? You guys play such a varied role in this ecosystem that I want to make sure we get it all down.
Oh, it's very kind of you. Yeah, sure. If you don't know Vention, we are a one-stop shop for industrial automation. We've got an online browser-based platform where people can design a machine, program a machine, simulate a machine, and if you like it, you can order it. We'll assemble it if you want and ship it to you assembled, or like industrial IKEA, it'll come flat pack and you assemble it. And there are all kinds of machines. So from basic static workstations through to gantries, linear actuators, range extenders, through to robotic applications, pick and place, palletizing, depalletizing, all that kind of stuff. And our premise is that we can make this simple and accessible to people.
So you guys really empower so many applications across the board, and you're really responsible for the success of so many deployments. I'm curious, what are some of the trends that you're seeing from that unique vantage point that excite you the most in the automation industry?
Yeah, I mean, obviously AI is a big thing. So we started very simple. Vention's history, it was first just like static frames and structures, which had a ton of value to get to very quickly design a custom workstation or a cart or a stand. And then we moved into basic motion, two-dimensional gantry motion, to be able to like lift and roll things to inspect stuff. Then we moved into robots, right? But it was still kind of blind robots. So, when I say blind, I mean, you would program the robot and it would just follow a path, right? And now we're moving into AI-based robotics. And that means that we can use vision, right? The frontiers of AI have progressed such that you can now, with an affordable stereo camera, you can look at a scene, identify an object, and then you can do something like pick up that object and whatnot. So that's really what's exciting us. And that's been a big part of our releases here at Automate this year.
So tell me about some of those releases. What are you guys kind of demoing here today? And, what are the exciting happenings in the world of Vention?
Yeah, so the big news is we've got our MMAI motion controller. So, we've got a hardware ecosystem that is plug and play parts. So you need a controller to control things. Whether you're, just moving an actuator or you're controlling a robot, you need some kind of brain. So we've had two versions in our history. And this month we're releasing the third generation of our controller. The thing that's different is we put an NVIDIA GPU inside it. So we put a big brain. And what does that mean you can do? You can run cutting edge foundational models. In simple terms, it's a brain that allows us to put an affordable camera that can look at a scene and reliably identify a part for picking it up.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, we're super excited.
It's super exciting to see, all of the things you guys have going on the hardware front. And of course we know, as we stand in this room full of innovators, that the pace of innovation and, you guys definitely being at the forefront of that, certainly accelerating. Lots of exciting things happening both on the hardware and the software front. My question for you is, what are some of the roadblocks that are, kind of impacting adoption? Why doesn't every factory look like the factories that we're seeing here? And not just factories, but, warehousing, logistics, every industry across the board. What are really the barriers that are keeping folks from adopting some of this technology?
Yeah. Historically, it's taken a lot of effort to design a custom machine. The customers that are here at the show, they've got unique businesses. You know what I mean? They're in business because they're doing something special. And so there are patterns of their needs, but the products that people are manufacturing and packaging and whatnot are individualized. And so you need to develop custom, for a lot of applications, it's a custom machine. And the process of designing a custom machine takes some expertise and it takes some time. You need to validate that it's going to work and be safe and all that kind of stuff. So it's just time and money has been a bit of a barrier. The big companies like your automotive companies, they've been able to afford to automate things because they've got the money and they're doing high production. But your small and medium-sized companies, the math just hasn't been there to automate smaller scale production or production that might be working on one type of product for a week and then switch over to another type of product. Fortunately, that is starting to change, and it is becoming easier and more affordable to do automation. I mean, we're super happy to play a part in that. There's a lot of other great companies here that are playing a part in that trend, but that trend is making it easier. And I just expect us to see more and more automation inside small and medium-sized businesses in the future.
And that really gets to the heart of one of the things that I love about Automate, which is the sense that we're all kind of on the same team working towards something together. Because, while you guys are part of the ecosystem, you really empower so much that kind of ripples out beyond just the things that you specifically touch. So, with that in mind, as you look at kind of the pain points of the future and, where you're thinking about the next generation of products, what do you think Vention's role in that will be? And what are the pain points that you're, kind of looking for there?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're super proud that lots of actual companies here even use us, for where they can. There are some remaining technical challenges that we are close to making easy and affordable. So bin picking is one of them. And if people aren't familiar with the bin picking challenge, that is the challenge of, in so many facilities, people carry parts around in a bin. There's lots of good reasons. Maybe the step before, there was some machine that did something and they come out of a feeder and they drop into a bin. And now you need to do something like you do a little bit of more machining, or maybe you need to do some surface treatment or something like that. It turns out that there's a ton of the labor force whose job is to pick a part from a bin and to put it into some other machine for the next step. And humans are actually really good at that. We train since children, if you remember, to like pick up a part and put the triangle into the, we know how to do that. That's actually been surprisingly hard to do that reliably and flexibly and affordably for robotics, but it is so common. So, I'm excited for us and frankly for our industry to make that reliable and affordable, because it's not the most rewarding job for human operators to sit somewhere and pick up something, to put it into a machine. We do all kinds of things to make that as rewarding as possible, but it's not super rewarding, and/or it's not ergonomic. Like, humans are great at this, but it's not good for us to do it all day, twisting, lifting, and whatnot. So, we need to solve that technical challenge, and that's going to be a good thing for manufacturing.
Absolutely. And, at the same time as kind of these use cases are expanding, the flexible automation that you're talking about, becoming more and more possible. Even outside of that, it seems that more people than ever are interested in automation, interested in robotics. And, from my other conversations with folks, some of that being driven by the impact of this, kind of trend towards onshoring. And I'm curious, from your perspective, how has that started to play out in the automation industry? And what do you think the impacts of that will be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's well known that there are labor force challenges in manufacturing. And, I talked about the job. So I've walked a number of facilities this year, and you walk a facility and you see people doing this work, and it's very repetitive and it can be tough on the body. And so the turnover is high. There's a lot of folks who will do the job, but they don't love it. And then they find something better, more rewarding, that fits their life. And that's great for them. That's not great for the manufacturer. And onshoring, this trend of let's do more manufacturing in North America, means more people right now doing these kinds of tasks. So the trend, I think it's good to have more of the manufacturing distributed around the world. I think it's a good thing for North America to have more manufacturing. In order for us to do it successfully, we're going to have to automate. And I think this trend of the need for automation hopefully is meeting the trend of the capability of technology to do it, and if everything's great, we're going to land this plane, there's going to be more manufacturing in North America, and we're going to have the tech and automation to fulfill that demand.
So, my next question for you is, as we're, kind of looking at this, trend towards automation, and, kind of going back to the history of Vention and taking, another step back to, kind of the products that you guys are demoing here today and your new releases. My question for you is, how do these things connect, and, what do you kind of see as Vention's overall impact in the sector?
Yeah, I mean, we're one of the ones who, we have a point of view about automation. Our point of view is that it should be easier and faster for small and medium businesses and actually enterprise. Enterprise actually uses us a lot, but in some ways we feel like if we rise to the occasion for the small and medium businesses, the enterprises come along too because they actually value, speed and simplicity. So, we think we made some choices as a business. Vention said we are going to build a rich ecosystem of plug and play parts like Legos, industrial Legos. And when you decide to create a whole new Lego ecosystem, you make decisions about how big are the rectangles and what are you offering and all that kind of stuff. We sort of say that we offer t-shirt sizing, which means right now we offer 3 motors and they're small, medium, large,
Right.
and it's not everything in between. And some people might go, oh, the large is a little bigger than what we need or whatever. But we do this because we're trying to make it easier and faster, cheaper to get automation into people's hands. So we think we're a big proponent of that choice. Not everybody will make the same choice. That's totally fine. But we think it resonates with a lot of customers. At the end of the day, we want to help our customers, these distributors, manufacturers, whatnot, solve their manufacturing or material handling needs as quickly as possible.
And so, in a lot of circumstances, from my background at Blue Sky Robotics, I know that we rely on Vention frequently as a marketplace for integrators. So we talk a lot about what makes a good automation ally, and we think about integrators as kind of allies for that end customer that helps drive not just kind of initial installation success, but long-term stability and continued success throughout the life cycle of that project. So my question for you is, what makes a good automation ally?
Yeah, well, so we love integrators. We love to work with integrators. We think they've got tons of domain knowledge. They care about the customers like we care about the customers. And frankly, we've got a hardware and software ecosystem, and we can't be in the field, in every factory that we'd like to where our equipment is being deployed. Now, we do get into a lot of them, right? We believe that in order for us to develop a good hardware and software ecosystem, we actually have to do it ourselves with our equipment. So we do a bunch of that, but we don't want to do all of it. What makes a great partner? I mean, it starts with a customer focus. They have to want and care about customer success. Vention, we're super committed to customer success. If something doesn't work, we're committed to going there and making sure that it works. So we need partners who have that kind of same mindset. We're not we're going to sell you something and then we walk away and we're like, it's up to you to make it successful. If it's not successful, then it's our problem, So we need partners that are dedicated in the same way. I mean, our hope is that the Vention ecosystem is easy enough to use that you don't have to be the hardcore PLC expert. Vention's promise is we're not, building PLCs. For those, who don't know PLC, it's this solid technology. It's this old technology, but it's very robust. But it has a limited number of people who really know how to build out that technology and serve the technology and so forth. So, our partners need to be people who are on board with a contemporary approach of putting an industrial computer beside the machine and letting the industrial computer do the controls. And I think that's more and more common.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this kind of human focus, I think is so special. And I'm happy to say is not uncommon as the industry, kind of evolves.
Yes.
We've talked a lot about what makes a successful deployment. But my question for you is, what are some of the common mistakes that you see folks make when they go to kind of take their first foray into automation?
Yep. I mean, biting off more than they can chew. It's good if a business hasn't done a ton of automation, you kind of want to do a risk-based approach, which means you might look at your process and feel like there's some piece here that is the bottleneck or the most important. Boy, if we could automate that, it would really help our business. You want to get there eventually, but if you haven't done a lot of automation, you actually want successes. So you want ROI that's good enough to be worth it, but maybe not your highest one, where you can get some experience and some confidence that it's gonna work. So some of those are palletizing. I don't know if your audience is familiar with palletizing, but at the end of most manufacturing lines, you have a box of product and you need to put those products onto pallets for shipping out somewhere. That is something that lots of places still have humans doing, but palletizing has become quite a reliable solution available to people. So if you've got a plant and you're doing that and you're not doing palletizing, that's a great place to start because you're likely to be very successful. And then, the next most successful deployment, and then you build up to things that are a little riskier, but boy, if it works, it's going to have a big payoff.
Yeah. Well, Brendan, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak
My
with us.
pleasure,
Thank you
Tony.
so
Right
much.
on. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And we'll keep you posted with more of the latest and greatest from Automate 2025.